So yeah, we're talking about damage reduction this time. And originally I was just going to do weakening and see how it combined with other damage reduction enchants to see if it maintained its ratio. But then I figured if I did that, then I was going to get other questions like, what about this combo, and what about this combo? And to be honest, I was wondering that stuff myself, so I decided to do a full deep dive and completely crack the code for how damage reduction stacks in this game and just try to see what's going on in Mahjong's head. And by that I mean I tried every possible damage reduction combination that I could think of, aside from protection because it's garbage and you shouldn't use it anyway. But if there was something that I forgot, it's going to take me a million years to notice it. That also included me looking at the damage reduction effects by themselves to see if they were actually doing what they should. And for the most part, yeah, they do work the way that they should. Gong of Weakening is 25% reduction. Armor's 35% reduction is 35% reduction. Weakening is 40% reduction. Ghost Cloak, Ironhide Amulet, and Guarding Strike are all 50% reduction. You also got 90% reduction from Potion Barrier. The one that was kind of weird though was Oakwood Brew. It's supposed to be 35% reduction on paper, which is actually internally like 34.95% or something like that. I forget what that data came out to when a PC player by the name of Birdie had shared me this old data a long time ago. But when I was testing it myself, it actually came out to 33 1/3%, which, you know, is kind of cool because it means it's reducing the damage you take by exactly one, well, not exactly 1/3 because decimals hate repeating threes, but more or less, yeah. And I mean, it's pretty close to 35%, but it's just like, why? I don't know why they wouldn't just stick with 35% like they were supposed to. But looking how everything combined, for the most part, everything does combine the way that it should. For instance, 35% reduction along with Gong of Weakening do combine to 51.3%, and if you take 100 and subtract 35% and then subtract 25%, you will get a total of 51.3% reduced damage. Well, actually it's 48.7, like rounded, but that's just the damage you're taking. This is supposed to be the damage that's being reduced. Other things that work the way that they should are like, if you have Gong of Weakening along with Ghost Cloak or Ironhide Amulet or Guarding Strike, it comes out to 62.5%. If you do 35% reduction along with Guarding Strike, it's 67.5%. But here's where it gets a little weird. You notice that I didn't mention Ghost Cloak or Ironhide Amulet with that, despite the fact that they also have 50% reduction. That's because, for whatever reason, when you combine 35% damage reduction along with Ghost Cloak or Ironhide Amulet, it comes out to 60.6% reduction instead of 67.5%, meaning that effectively that 35% reduction is being reduced to only doing 21.2% reduction. And I've noticed this kind of trend throughout certain enchant combinations or certain buff combinations. Like, for instance, if you combine Weakening with Gong of Weakening, Gong of Weakening's 25% reduction then only becomes 16.67% reduction. I guess you could also say that instead it's reducing the Weakening's reduction. It comes out to the same thing. I prefer to say it affects the weaker one because if you're going for damage reduction, you should be using the strongest one anyway. On top of that, normally if you combine, say, Ironhide Amulet and Guarding Strike, you will get 75% damage reduction. But for whatever reason, despite the fact that those two along with Ghost Cloak give you 50% reduction, if you combine either of those two with Ghost Cloak, the Ghost Cloak goes from being 50% reduction to 33.3% reduction. Your guess is as good as mine, I have no clue. The last one that was a bit different was when you have Potion Barrier active, your 35% armor damage reduction drops to only 5%. And if you have Ironhide Amulet or Ghost Cloak active, instead of being 50% reduction on top of that, they only do 9 or 10% reduction. I'm not sure why those two exactly. Like I said, it doesn't make any sense, because if you have Potion Barrier and Guarding Strike active, you will get 95% total reduction like you should. So for the most part, this doesn't really affect anything in too bad of a way. For instance, if you have 35% reduction along with Gong of Weakening, Ghost Cloak, Ironhide Amulet, Guarding Strike, and Potion Barrier, you'll get 97% damage reduction when you should be getting 99.4%. It's almost the same, except when you think about it, if you have 99.4% reduction, you should only be taking 0.6%, and if you're taking 3% instead, that's 5 times the amount of damage that you should be taking. But you're not really going to notice that because that amount is already so small anyway, you can't even notice it. But it's just really weird how those things don't stack up the way that they should. Also, while I'm saying this, I'm gonna have video clips of me running through these tests, like the clips when I was gathering this information, just so you can see the damage that I'm taking with the different reductions, so you can kind of run that math yourself. But I think I'm gonna provide a link to, I have a few charts that I made basically. One of them was the raw damage that I was taking with each percentage, or with each damage reduction stack, incrementally getting lower and lower. Another chart then is just showing the damage reduction that these effects combined should give me, and then another chart showing what they actually give me, and then I have a final chart that just mentions all the ones that are different and how much different they are, just to make it easier to see. I'm not gonna go. I was originally thinking about like reading those off as I was like in this video, but if I started doing that, you guys would click off the video anyway. It's kind of pointless to include that information. I figured it was just important to say what stuff doesn't behave the way that it should, or what stuff doesn't stack proportionally, like whatever values change. But I'll probably have a link in the description to like some Reddit post where I post this too, because I love posting useless or otherwise overlooked information there, so that's going to be part of that too. But yeah, the original question being, you know, does weakening diminish? It only diminishes if you stack it with Gong of Weakening. If you use it with Potion Barrier, it will decrease that 10% damage that you're taking by another 40%, so you will get a total of 94% damage reduction. So for Weakening specifically, as long as you're not using it with Gong of Weakening, you will get the full amount. It doesn't mean you can't use it with Gong of Weakening, it just doesn't come out to what it should. And when you're using 35% damage reduction, as long as it's not with Ironhide Amulet or Ghost Cloak, you'll get the full amount, or vice versa. And if you're using Ghost Cloak, as long as you're not using it with Ironhide or Guarding Strike, or vice versa, you'll get the full amount for that. And Potion Barrier, you just don't get the full amount with 35% damage reduction or Ironhide Amulet or Ghost Cloak for whatever reason. But for the most part, everything was pretty close. You know, Mojang almost got their numbers right. Except for the one time that I was testing against an Armored Vindicator, and I was taking 177,000 damage and change with my damage reduction effect stack. And when I applied Weakening on top of that, it only dropped to 175,000 damage and change. And, I mean, you don't need to be a math expert to know that there's a big difference between 40% and wherever the hell Mojang pulled that 1% from. Like, I have no idea what planet they got that from, how they were doing their math with that one. It only happened the one time, though, so maybe I can't blame them too much, I guess, because maybe it was a bug, but it looked like a preschooler trying to do quantum physics. Aside from that, though, everything's more or less kind of okay, except for Potion Barrier, which really starts to skew things. But, yeah, that's Mojang trying math for you. Anyway, that's all I got for now. Till next time, I'll see ya.